Welcome! Today we're going to explore a really interesting idea, quiet power. And this isn't about, being the loudest person in the room, is it? It feels like it's more about that subtle, unshakable strength that really comes from within.
It's a great question, right? We've all seen it. Someone walks into a room and they just have this presence.
Exactly. And it's not aggression or that sort of loud charisma we often think of. It's something much calmer, more centered.
I'm glad we're making this clear right from the start. The ideas we're discussing today are not tools for manipulation.
No, not at all. This is really about self-improvement. It's about protecting your own sense of self.
And that's really the heart of it. True power, the kind that actually lasts, it always starts with self-awareness. Right. It's about learning to regulate your own reactions long before you even think about influencing your environment. This comparison really lays it out. On one side, you have what's called loud power. The constant effort, the arguing, that desperate need for validation.
And then on the other side, quiet power is all about composure, self-respect, and the kind of calm detachment. It's just a completely different kind of energy.
Okay, so this first principle is really the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about.
I agree.
It's not about learning tactics to use on other people. It's about preserving your own inner peace and dignity first and foremost.
I think this quote just gets right to the heart of it. That little pause, that choice you make to not give in to a knee-jerk emotional response, that is the exact moment you take your power back.
So let's get into the practical side of this. How does this work in the real world?
Yeah, how do we actually build that shield against all the negativity and challenges that come from outside of us?
It seems like this approach breaks down into 3 core arts, so to speak. The first one is detachment.
Followed by calmness, and then this idea of non-defense. It feels like they all build on each other, one after the next.
All right, let's start with detachment. It's defined here as having the clarity to stop seeking approval from people who have, already made up their mind about you.
That's so true. It's like recognizing when a battle is unwinnable and then making the conscious choice not to fight it.
And this is just so important to remember. I think we all have that one person, maybe it's a coworker, maybe a family member, whose approval we feel like we just have to get. And letting go of that need is just liberating. Your own inner peace is simply more valuable.
Right. And that brings us perfectly to the second art, calmness, especially when you're faced with something like mockery. And this quote is key. Mockery needs a reaction to survive. If you give it anger or frustration, you're just fueling the fire. You're giving it oxygen.
Just think about it for a second. If someone makes a joke at your expense and you just offer a quiet, calm little smile, the joke just stops. It has nowhere to go.
And all of a sudden, the person who was trying to get a rise out of you is the one who looks a bit insecure. You've completely flipped the dynamic without even saying a word.
Which leads us to the third art, non-defense. This quote really says it all. The second you start defending yourself, you're basically admitting that their accusation has some power over you. Whereas that calm indifference, it sends a much stronger message. It says, I am not defined by what you think of me. So we've talked about handling these pressures from the outside. But what about the challenges that come from within?
Right. This next section seems to be all about managing our own internal emotional world.
Emotional discipline. It's a really powerful concept. It's the strength to experience a setback without broadcasting your vulnerability to everyone around you.
And by doing that, you're not just maintaining your composure, you're actually protecting yourself.
Absolutely. Imagine not getting a promotion you really wanted. A big public display of anger or sadness just shows everyone your weak spot. But quiet acceptance, that signals resilience. It tells people you have other options, that this one setback doesn't define who you are.
Okay, let's build on that idea a little bit with our next point, which is all about handling our own mistakes. It seems like the way we react to our own slip-ups has a massive impact on how other people end up seeing them. This feels so true, doesn't it? We make a mistake and we feel like there's a giant spotlight on us. But there's a second part to this idea. And this is the key. If you obsess over a mistake, apologize for it over and over again, you make it bigger. You basically teach other people that it's a big deal. But if you just acknowledge it and move on with confidence, you're signaling that it's actually minor. And most people will just follow your lead. So all of these skills, this detachment, this calmness, this emotional discipline,
They don't just happen out of nowhere. They're the result of cultivating a certain kind of mindset. Which brings us to our final principle, growth. This is a really powerful way to frame it. That inner confidence is really just an outcome of your daily choices. The stuff you read and watch, the people you allow to influence you.
These things really do shape your internal landscape, and real growth begins when you choose to be aware of those inputs instead of just reacting on impulse all the time.
So, as we wrap up, let's try to distill this entire philosophy down to one core idea. If you take just one thing away from this today, let it be this. The ultimate form of power isn't about dominion over other people. It's about achieving mastery over yourself. And that leaves us with a question for you to reflect on. Looking back at these ideas, detachment, calmness, non-defense, emotional discipline, which one of them really resonates with you right now? What feels like the next step in your own journey to practice quiet power?